Hello, my friends. Today we can see the results of Ukraine's very clever plan. Everyday strikes are hitting Russian oil refineries, and now the Russians are covering them not just with nets, but even with metal structures because the damage is already massive. If Russia can be seriously weakened, the situation at the front will also worsen, which could open the chance to regain some territories. Share your thoughts in the comments. And since even Trump has now admitted that Ukraine can win and reclaim its land, today it's reported that Ukraine will receive new aircraft. For the first time, Sweden will provide Ukraine with fourth-generation multi-role Gripen fighters, Deputy Defense Minister Gavriluk announced. Additional deliveries of F-16s from the US and Mirage jets from France are also expected. While details on timing and numbers are not yet confirmed, this is very good news. In Russia, they are actively debating the possible transfer of Tomahawks to Ukraine.
As for the Tomahawks, we'll see. There's mixed information. Sometimes they say they'll give them, sometimes they won't. The press secretary of our president has already said, this won't change anything at the front. We know how to shoot down various aerial targets, but the problems will mainly fall on the Americans. Why, after all, the Ukrainian forces aren't able to launch these Tomahawks themselves. That means specialists, officers, soldiers, equipment, and technical personnel will be needed. From that moment all of them will become targets, and nobody will protect them, neither Trump, nor Kellogg, nor anyone else. So let them think and decide for themselves. We know what we're doing, and we will continue to carry out the task of the special military operation.
And Ben Hodges said that Russia needs to be punished. Europeans must find a way to punish Russia for provocations, Ben Hodges said. The former commander of US Army Europe argued that Russians should feel pain whenever they violate the airspace of European countries or use a shadow fleet. Europe must unite. You can't rely on the US. You must be ready to act independently. You know, if your neighbor's dog soils your yard once or twice, you'll tell the neighbor. The third time, either you build a higher fence or you get rid of the dog. Meanwhile, Sibiga stated that Ukraine wants to end the war this year.
Ukrainian resilience is not a reason for an endless war. We aim to finish this war in 2025. After the meeting between Zelensky and Trump in New York, we gained a new momentum. I would be very cautious here. We have achieved a new diplomatic dynamic for peace efforts in the right direction. This is important.
So, friends, write your thoughts in the comments. Do you think there is even a chance the war could really end this year? Now, let's take a look at the frontline situation, starting with the Dnipropetrovsk axis. Here, the Russians have managed to make a very serious push near the settlement of Pokrovsk. The breakthrough was just over 10 kilometers, and immediately 4 villages fell under Russian control. Unfortunately, they are now trying to push toward Oleksiivka, Sultin, Novogrigorivka, and Shalin in the Pokrovsk area. Activity here is very high, and as we can see, holding the defense isn't working. Moreover, in this area, the Russians have already advanced 17.5 kilometers from the border of Dnipropetrovsk region. If we look at the situation more broadly, since the beginning of summer, so from June 1st, the Russians have managed to advance 24 kilometers on this axis. And as we can see, the front here continues to move forward. So the situation is critical. On the Gulay-Pole axis, the Russians have also achieved some small gains. They managed to break through near Novomykolaivka and are gradually moving to Sokol-Poltavka, which they haven't yet been able to capture. Fighting here remains very intense, and late last night, Russians began claiming that they had already captured Poltavka. For now, we are waiting for official confirmation. On the Zaporizhia axis, the Russians are not launching new assaults and are instead pulling up reserves. However, the situation with Shalin remains difficult, and the Russians continue to actively use drones. On the Kherson axis, the Russians continue attacks in the area of the Antonievsky Bridge. However, they have made no progress, and the front line here remains stable. At the same time, shelling of the right bank continues at maximum intensity. Now let's move to the Novopavlivka axis. Here, the Russians are also maintaining high activity, but they are not advancing quickly. For now, they assault Filia, Iskra, and pushing in the area of Piddubne and Gorikhove. However, over the past day, there have been no changes. Ukrainian forces are managing to repel all attacks. On the Pokrovsk axis, the Russians are pushing through near Rodinske, assaulting Krasny Liman and Novoekonomichne, advancing toward Mirnograd and storming Lysivka and Molodetske. They are also advancing in the area of Udachne, Kotline, and Zvirove. However, despite all this activity, no changes have taken place over the past day. On the Kostantinivka axis, the Russians are assaulting Stupachki, advancing toward Ivanopilya, storming Pleshiyivka, Klebanbyk, and Stepanivka, and also pushing across the fields near Yablonivka, Rusin Yar, and Poltavka. But despite this high level of activity, there have been no changes. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces released footage showing the strikes on the Russians. Ukrainian Air Force continues active operations in the canal area near Chasiv Yar. This is exactly where the Russians have recently been trying to concentrate their forces, but instead they keep receiving hot gifts from our pilots. In the Kramatorsk direction, the Russians again began assaulting Minkivka, but so far the Ukrainian forces are repelling all attacks and there have been no changes over the past day. In the Siversk direction, the Russians are assaulting Yampil and are effectively breaking toward the town center. They're also assaulting Dronivka and pushing past Serebryanka and Fedorivka. But for now, there are no confirmed changes over the past day. We are waiting for confirmation about Yampil since the geolocation map already shows part of the settlement in the red zone and part in the gray zone, which means we are gradually losing Yampil. In the Liman direction, the Russians have claimed the capture of Shandrigolove and Zarichne. They are also assaulting Drobышеvo and Stavky. Official confirmation is still pending, but Ukrainian fighters report that Shandrigolove is indeed under Russian control. The Russians have secured Shandrigolova, establishing full control. They have displayed several of their flags, one of which was spotted in the western part of the village. Next, the Russians may either move into the Svetohirsk forests or head toward Alexandrivka. Regarding Dyrylove, it's currently in the red zone. The Russians have been active there, but no confirmed advances toward Drobyshevo have been reported. This means the Russians might pause to regroup while still keeping options open for a southward push toward the northern outskirts of the next settlement. Additionally, the Russians are advancing in the northern part of Yampil. The gray zone has expanded, now reaching deeper into the settlement all the way to the town council building. This indicates that fighting is occurring in densely built up areas, and our units are forced to hold back Russian pressure almost street by street. As can be seen, Ukrainian fighters confirm that almost all Russian breakthroughs are very troubling. In the Borova direction, the Russians are assaulting Bohuslavka, but otherwise activity remains low, and over the past day the front line hasn't changed. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians are trying to advance in the city, but have had no success so far, and the fighting continues. In the Dvorichna direction, the Russians failed to make any progress in the areas of Doroshivka and Dovhenke. Today, attacks are only reported toward Dvorichansk, but over the past day there have been no changes, and all assaults are being successfully repelled. In the Veliki Burluk direction, the Russians are assaulting Ambarne, but have been unable to advance further. The situation hasn't changed over the past day. In the Kharkiv direction, everything remains stable for now. The Russians are not conducting new assaults, while fighting continues in Vovchansk, with attacks reported in the area of Vovchansky Hutory. Over the past day, there have been no changes, and all attacks are being successfully repelled by the Ukrainian armed forces. In the Sumy direction, the Russians are assaulting Varachine, but without success, and the front line remains unchanged. Meanwhile, Putin decided to congratulate Russians on the so-called reunification with newly occupied regions.
On this festive day, in the year of the defender of the fatherland, I address soldiers and officers, the true heroes of our time, with special feelings. I thank you for your loyalty to the motherland, for your military valor and courage, for every day of your hard combat work. I am confident that thanks to you, Russia's security will be reliably ensured, and long-awaited and lasting peace will return to the heroic land of Donbas and Novorossiya. We are together, and that means all our plans will be realized. Happy holiday. Happy reunification day.
At the same time, Orban claimed that Ukraine is not an independent country.
So, Ukraine is not at war with Hungary, but with Russia. It needs to focus on drones at its eastern border, because these are NATO countries. Ukraine is a security rear. No one will attack it from here. I don't think the Poles, Romanians, Hungarians, Slovaks, or Bulgarians want to attack them. So all of this is just fake. It doesn't matter at all. I trust the ministers, but even if something happened, so what? Ukraine is not an independent country. Ukraine is not a sovereign state. Are we holding Ukraine? The West is holding it. We are giving it weapons. Ukraine should not behave like a sovereign country. It has lost a fifth of its territory in the war with Russia. The Russians took that. Its sovereignty ended there. We hold the rest of the territory. If the West decides not to give a single penny, Ukraine will close down and disappear. This needs to be taken more seriously. A few Hungarian drones are not what Ukrainians should worry about. These are not their enemies.
Friends, share your thoughts in the comments. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.